Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk about some proof of how the SEC are starting to take action. And I want to talk about Citadel and Melvin Capital being in a bit of trouble, and Melvin Capital potentially getting margin called. So stay tuned and let's make some money. But before I dive into the video, I just want to give a massive shout out to the 4,100 of you that have currently dinged that notification bell, because you guys are always the first to watch a new video as soon as it's released. So guys, be sure to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell if you haven't already so that you don't miss another video just like this one. And just a quick one before I dive in with the key information. If you haven't already, I'd really consider checking out the private Discord and becoming part of the team. That way you get urgent updates and news and due diligence about AMC and other stocks and cryptocurrency before I even make a video. And you get entered into a draw to win $600 on the 28th of August, linked in the description below. And I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, after 8 months of holding, I'd like to share the single most bullish indicator that we are close in my eyes. I work for the state government in a reasonably responsible position. I am privy to and part of departmental director level meetings and have been part of a project spearheaded by the Lieutenant Governor. I work with a federal agency closely on the regional level. I understand how these types think and operate. I see it every day. What I am seeing in Mr. Gensler is all too familiar. He's preparing a narrative out in front of this thing. Now, don't get me wrong, he seems sincere, and I genuinely think that this problem has revealed itself to be so deep and big that until a movement the size of ours, I don't think anyone could have made a dent in this. As in, the problem of market manipulation and an unfair market is so big and so widespread that any other person or small group kicking up a fuss wouldn't have made a single difference. But because the ape movement, the ape army and the ape nation is so big and stretches so far and wide, they have no choice but to make an impact and make a change. But he is preparing. He was radio silent for 6.5 months. Then he broke that silence, getting more and more specific and deliberate each time. He retweeted a deleted portion of his interview in which he names hedge funds and market makers as potentially abusive. Again, the wording he uses is very deliberate and very specific. Everything you say is coded and ambiguous, depending on what you need it to have meant later in depositions. He's doing news interviews pretty routinely now, so much so that the last appearance barely registered with this community, at least comparatively. Cool, moving on, sort of vibe. We're used to Mr. Gensler speaking now. That's my point. He's being very vocal. That, my friends, is the single most bullish indicator that to me we are approaching the event horizon. That and Rentec, but that's a different titty-jacking entirely. Seriously, if you don't connect the dots that Rentec, the single most successive AI-driven hedge fund operating today on an invite-only basis, went very long on AMC, I digress. The single greatest indicator to me that we are approaching the big bada boom is that Mr. Gensler is on TV on a nearly daily or weekly basis saying retail needs more protection, the market needs regulation, and we're up to the task. And these guys right here, they may be abusive. I know how directors operate. Controlling the narrative is the primary item on any director's list. It is the supreme function. I would know. I've just lived through it, leading a residential facility through the front lines of the pandemic. I watched people lose their careers. I saw the narrative control, and it was thoroughly explained to me that that was what my check was for. I see a director controlling the narrative. Something big is coming. Titties are jacked. He also made an edit as he was asked for proof that he was actually a real person and that he did work for the state government in some form of high-up position. And this is that proof he provided with a business card, a State of New Jersey ID, and an AMC and GameStop gift card. I've said all along that I think Gary Gensler going more public and speaking about these problems in our market on TV, even if it is CNBC, is good, because it shows that he is aware of the problem and is starting to put steps in place to remedy it. That's why we've seen so many bills going through the DTCC and the NSCC and getting passed and implemented so quickly. And he's also spoken specifically about the amount and volume of retail trades going through the dark pool, and he realises it's a giant issue. Not only do we have that, but we have an assistant superintendent working fairly high up at the government saying that Mr. Gensler is starting to put a plan in place and he is bringing attention to the topic. And most importantly, he's controlling the narrative so that when these hedge funds do come down and when they implode after the squeeze, it in no way bounces back onto us and can no way be construed that we're the ones that have ruined the market. It's these abusive shorters. Now, I also wanted to talk about Ken Griffin's Citadel planning to redeem $500 million from Melvin Capital and why this is a good thing. Let's go through the article first and then I'll explain why I think it's good a little bit later. Ken Griffin's Citadel LLC and Citadel Partners are planning to redeem about $500 million of the $2 billion they invested in Melvin Capital. The Wall Street Journal reported here on Saturday, citing people familiar with the matter. Together with Steve Cohen's Point72 Asset Management, Griffin Citadel had invested $2.75 billion in January into Melvin Capital, the hedge fund which was at risk or at the centre of the GameStop trading frenzy earlier this year. According to the Wall Street Journal, it could not determine whether Citadel plans to redeem more money later. Citadel is expected to remain a large investor, the report added, citing a person familiar with the matter. Melvin Capital, the fund founded by Gabe Plotkin, lost 49% of its investments during the first 3 months of 2021, a person familiar with the matter told Reuters in April. Melvin had established itself as a strong performer, posting annualized returns of 30% between 2014 and 2020. But Plotkin had bet the retailer's GameStop stock price would tumble and then faced off with retail traders who used online trading apps and exchanged information on Reddit's Wall Street Bets forum to push the stock price significantly higher in the early weeks of January. So some people might say, well, that's bad because it just means that Citadel are going to get an extra $500 million that they can use to continue shorting AMC and knocking the price down. But the way I see it is that A, Melvin Capital are going to be in trouble because they're going to have to liquidate some of their portfolio in order to return $500 million to Ken Griffin. And the second point, more importantly, is that to me it shows that Citadel are running out of money. They're having to make redemptions on their investments in order to get some cash to maintain margin requirements. It shows they have pretty much every single penny that they own all tied up in AMC shorts, and they're running out of money to add to that short position to continue holding us down. It shows that we, the Ape Army, are winning. Yes, the AMC price hasn't yet flown up, but it's showing that Ken Griffin is really struggling to maintain control and really struggling to keep a lid on that AMC price. Maybe Ken Griffin's going to use that $500 million over the next few days and the next few weeks to continue shorting AMC. But what happens after that? Is he going to make another redemption from Melvin Capital, potentially liquidating them in the process? Ken Griffin only has a very finite supply of cash, and it does seem that he is absolutely running out. He's basically having to ask for his money back from Melvin Capital, just showing that he literally has zero cash on hand. I personally think that these new margin requirements are going to do some big damage to smaller hedge funds and larger hedge funds too. Larger hedge funds are going to have more accounts and are then going to have to stump up more margin collateral. The smaller hedge funds might potentially even get entirely liquidated, therefore pushing the AMC price up and potentially liquidating some other funds as well, meaning that the big funds have to stump up even more margin collateral as the collateral is variable based on the price of the underlying securities. Let's hope that Gary Gensler continues his stream of new bills being implemented by the DTCC and the NSCC and hopefully continues to up that margin requirement even higher. I also wanted to go over the reverse repo facility as we now have Friday's data, and it's $1,111 billion or $1.1 trillion. That's now 8 days in a row that the reverse repo facility has been over $1 trillion. I am massively looking forward to the next trading week and also for the remaining trading weeks in August and September when those new margin requirements kick in, and I think that noose around these hedges' necks is ever so tightening more and more and more as the weeks go by. Guys, be sure to let me know down in the comments below what you think about Gary Gensler and the SEC finally starting to take action, and about Citadel running out of money and having to redeem cash from Melvin Capital. And guys, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the links in the description below and sign up for Moomoo in the US and Free Trade in the UK to get those free shares. But be sure to deposit at least $100 to get the most out of those free shares and get the best value for your money. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my others. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.